Hello everyone, it's Chaplain April. I was going to invite you to Dissertation Prep with me today. I met with my advisor, it's been a few weeks now, and she liked my revision to my dissertation proposal. So I'm going to pull out the old one and kind of compare. Oh wow, this is really old. This is where I was writing things down. Rather, this is not the printed. Okay, here's the printed. Well, there's my first page. No, this is it. Okay. Printed version there. So, I bought this nifty bag. This is a really neat bag. It's a work bag. And you can also travel with it because it has the little travel thing here that you can put it on your luggage, and I love that. And so I can even get a laptop in here. So my MacBook, which I bought for school, fits right in here. And then I love these little small legal pads. They're so easy to take around. I have my 2025 planner, which I forgot about, to be honest. I haven't really looked in this bag since I got home from class in January. There's a vitamin C packet from when I was sick. Bunch of other stuff, ibuprofen. Okay, I didn't know I had these charging cords in here. The heck is this? Other videos I did, I think. And so I have a bunch of books that I'm going to use for my dissertation. So Chaplain Steve, who also has a Doctor of Ministry, he has been advising me on this a little bit. And so since mine is on chaplaincy, he said this book is the premier chaplaincy book, pastoral care and counseling. Howard Kleinbell, this is famous in the chaplain world. So, he's like, you have to have that book and you've got to, reference this book somehow. So it's a really big book. When I was taking CPE, which is clinical pastoral education, I don't remember, I don't think we went through this. So I don't know how long ago this book was written, but this might have come along later, or we didn't know about it. I don't know. So I had to order that. So I ordered all these books. Some of these are from my other class that I probably need to get rid of. I got into one of my clean out modes and I got rid of a lot of books because I just had too many. I got rid of all the non-essential books. So I really don't read fiction. Everything I read is some kind of a Christian bent to it. I used to read Christian fiction a lot, like that show that's on When Calls the Heart on Hallmark. That's a series of books. And then When Hope Calls and all that, all those series of books by, what is her name that wrote all of those? Anyway, I read those over 20 years ago. I read all of those. But I'm just not, I don't really want to read fiction. It's just not something that appeals to me right now. I would want to read like autobiographies or something that is essential for my studies, like Bible studies. So I went through all my books and I just thinned them out a lot. And some books that I didn't think I would even want to get rid of, I just let them go because I need my two bookcases in the study to be enough. And then I have my Bibles and devotions. I think I even thinned out some of those. It was just too much. And all my books from school, I pretty much gave those away. Because I just don't want to house all of those, but I want to have my reference books and my concordances and my different Bibles and things for study. And any book that was a classic in the faith, a classic, or something that was really well known that would help me in my studies, I kept those. So I still have a bunch of books here because these I bought for my dissertation, for prepping for my dissertation. So I was going to show you the ones that are not about women first. So this one, Stephen Seaman's Ministry in the Image of God, the Trinitarian Shape of Christian Service. So this will help me in, I'm going to do the history of chaplaincy. Not really the history of Christianity, but kind of, well, I'll tell you in a minute, but so that will be good. And then I have the Women's Bible Commentary, which would help a lot for what I'm trying to do here. So I have that, and then I researched, and a lot of the books that I found, so this was a good one that I found, Jesus Through the Eyes of Women, Rebecca McLaughlin, and McLaughlin, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but that one I am definitely going to use. God's Women Then and Now, Deborah McGill and Barbara Cavanis. That very much applies. Women in the Ministry of Jesus. Ben Witherington. These are all books that I remember in my research. Oh, okay, so Images of Pastoral Care. So since I'm going to do chaplaincy and how female chaplains are an extension, or actually the biblical women are foundations for female chaplains now, is kind of what I'm saying in my dissertation. I'm all over the place today. So I need to talk about pastoral care, which is chaplaincy. So any books on pastoral care that I have, I don't think I really had very many because I took CPE so long ago. Oh, I didn't think I had this book here. Yes, this is going to be one of my main topics that I focus on. So Junia is one of the women. I'm really interested in the women that Jesus worked with, or that worked with Jesus in his ministry. She is one of them, and a lot of people, there's this whole group of people that believe that she was an apostle. So I really want to delve into that because it's very important to me. So I bought this whole book on her. Of course, I haven't read it yet, but anyway, so that's that. And then I have women in the world of the earliest Christians. So I'm going to have to touch on, the culture back then, how women were treated, how women were seen in ministry. And it's just unbelievable that back in those cultures, a lot of prominent women still came to light, and were used, even in the Old Testament. So I decided upon 3 Old Testament women, 3 New Testament women, and 3 women from kind of from Protestantism from the beginning till now. 3 women that were pivotal there. So I'll go through the dissertation proposal here with you. So this is my dissertation as I presented it at the end of my class. So a dissertation presented to the faculty of Perkins School of Theology, Southern Methodist University, in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the degree of ministry. So that's what the title was supposed to look like. This is the template of what it was supposed to look like. So your table of contents with your chapters, your chapter titles, and then my title, dissertation title, had to actually be approved and signed off. And it changed a few times before that happened. So, and this was how we were supposed to come up with our proposal. We had a statement of the question, the methodology, contribution to the scholarly field, chapter outlines, and then the bibliography, and then they wanted a timeline of when we thought we would have this all done. And then this is the advisor page. So the advisor had to sign that, yes, I will take this person on to advise for their dissertation, because that's a whole job in itself, and these professors are very, very busy, And in fact, it's very difficult to get in touch with my advisor. I don't know how many classes she's teaching, but they're just very busy. And so I almost didn't meet with her, and this is the grading rubric. I almost didn't meet with her because I needed to change the time, and then I couldn't get a hold of her, and I just thought, let's just leave it at the time it was. And I moved everything else so that I could go ahead and meet with her, because that's the most important thing right now. This dissertation class with her as my advisor counts as a class, so she will be grading me on that. I think she teaches in the Master of Divinity program, so she teaches a lot of classes, but I picked her because she knows about women in ministry. She's taught about several of these women, and when I brought up a few of them, she's like, yes, and she's taught on those. So this is kind of her, you know, her niche, and I wanted someone that knew, obviously, about what I'm doing. So then I have her, and then I have my second reader is my first professor from my classes. So I really loved him, and he agreed to be my second reader. So my proposal, let's see, is this the old one? So I guess I didn't have the old, yeah, I do, okay. So this is the first proposal that I submitted. So it's called Exemplars of Faith, Women in Chaplaincy as Continuation of Biblical Matriarchs. So this is all written over because I had to, oh my gosh, it's just always when I start talking, it wants to start cleaning the floor. Okay, so I've got to get this done because I only have about 15 minutes. So I give, let's see, where's my, I can't even figure out what's going on here. Okay, so this is my, where's my, so anyway, so I had an introduction, and then I had my chapters outlined. There were 6 chapters, and my professor had told me that, because one of my chapters I wanted to do interviews and go interview prominent women ministers today, or some chaplains, and do interviews. And he said, if you do interviews for your dissertation, there's a whole nother process that you have to do and get it approved and all this stuff. So I dropped that chapter. So now I have 5 chapters, but I also kind of revised the chapters a little bit. So I've got my introduction here. I don't know if I should read this, or I guess I could read this. Yes, so this was the original that I had submitted to my advisor 2 months ago. And then she had told me what revisions she wanted me to do. She gave me 2 months to make the revisions. So it says, throughout Christian history, women have been instrumental in leadership, yet their roles in certain ministry areas remain largely unexplored. While female pastors have received substantial academic attention, the vocation of chaplaincy, particularly as it pertains to women, has not been adequately addressed. Chaplaincy as a unique ministry of spiritual care is distinct from traditional church leadership and operates primarily outside of traditional places of worship. Women in chaplaincy today embody a biblically rooted calling that is vital to the mission of the church. However, their contributions are often misunderstood, undervalued, or overlooked. Despite increasing recognition of women in chaplaincy, female chaplains continue to face challenges such as cultural biases, theological opposition to women in leadership, and misconceptions about the nature of chaplaincy itself. Historically, chaplaincy was male-dominated, reflecting societal norms about ministry roles. While the presence of women in chaplaincy has grown, it has not been without difficulty. Female chaplains often encounter skepticism about their theological legitimacy and face practical barriers in male-dominated institutions such as the military, hospitals, and prisons. This dissertation argues that female chaplains exemplify a biblically grounded model of spiritual leadership that flows from the matriarchs of the Bible and the ministry of Jesus. This dissertation argues that female chaplains exemplify a biblically grounded model of spiritual leadership that flows from the matriarchs of the Bible and the ministry of Jesus. It posits that women inhabiting this vocation serve as vital leaders in the Christian church, continuing a tradition of faith, care, and guidance established in Scripture. By addressing the challenges they face and highlighting their contributions, this study asserts that chaplaincy is a pioneering expression of Christ-like leadership that the church must embrace and empower. Additionally, this dissertation serves as an encouragement for female chaplains, affirming their invaluable contributions to the kingdom of God. It aims to provide theological support, inspire confidence in their calling, and offer a renewed sense of purpose in their leadership. So here I was writing ideas of different women that I was wanting to write about. Female chaplains are not simply participants in a profession, but are fulfilling a biblically rooted and spiritually significant role vital to the mission of the church. Their leadership model, while distinct, is an essential part of the broader church mission that the church must continue to embrace and empower. So number one was the intro, then I had methodology. This dissertation will employ a theological and biblical approach to analyze the role of women in chaplaincy in relation to women's leadership in Scripture. It will explore vital biblical passages where women served as leaders and compare their roles with the work of contemporary female chaplains. The methodology will include the following approaches: biblical analysis, study of biblical women leaders, and I had written Deborah, Phoebe, and Hannah, and then those changed, highlighting their leadership roles in spiritual care and ministry such as wisdom, faith, service, and counsel. Then historical context, examination of the historical development of chaplaincy with a focus on the role of women in chaplaincy throughout church history. And then contemporary chaplaincy practice, review of current literature on chaplaincy, particularly on the role of women in the field, both in secular and religious context. The research will include, number one, biblical exegesis, analysis of key biblical women, such as blah, 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 exploring their leadership qualities, how these can be applied to contemporary chaplaincy. Number two, theological reflection, investigating the theological implications of Jesus' interactions with women in ministry, particularly his radical affirmation of women in leadership roles and how his empowering of women challenges traditional gender roles and supports women in leadership. Number three, gender bias in ministry settings, which I kind of took out because I'm not really going to do that. So I'm not going to read that. Case studies, I took that out. Well, no, I might do case studies, but not interviews. So I took the interviews out, crossed that out. And then number three, contribution to the scholarly field. This dissertation will make a contribution by expanding the conversation of women in ministry. Argue that chaplaincy is a legitimate, essential form of leadership in the church today, particularly for women. Number two, biblical and theological foundations for chaplaincy. By examining the lives of biblical women and the ministry of Jesus, this dissertation will argue that the vocation of chaplaincy is rooted in biblical models of female leadership empowered by the ministry of Jesus. Number three, the role of chaplaincy as distinct from pastoral ministry. This work will distinguish chaplaincy from pastoral ministry and demonstrate the importance of spiritual leadership in contexts outside of the church, such as hospitals, military institutions, and prisons, where chaplains uniquely serve and lead. Number four, empowering female chaplains. This dissertation will advocate for the recognition and validation of women in chaplaincy, highlighting how their leadership is theologically supported and biblically grounded. It will emphasize the significance of female chaplains' contributions, offering encouragement and support for women pursuing leadership in the field. Literature review will encompass, which is number four of the main points, works on theology and ministry that address women in leadership roles both in the Bible and in contemporary church. Key areas of focus will include works on theology and leadership in ministry, particularly focusing on female leaders, historical accounts of women in church history and their leadership roles, case studies and contemporary works on the role of women in chaplaincy and their contributions in various ministry settings. where after I wrote all my ideas, because I had to submit the proposal, which is not over yet. So this is my chapter outline. Introduction. Chapter 2 is Biblical Foundations of Women in Leadership, exploring the female biblical leaders and their roles and contributions. Chapter 3 was Jesus and the Liberation of Women in Ministry, analysis of Jesus' treatment of women in his ministry, focusing on his affirmation of women in leadership roles, including his use of women as witnesses to his resurrection. That was a very important part. Chapter 4, Chaplaincy as a Unique Vocation, defining chaplaincy as a distinct form of leadership. Exploration of how female chaplains embody leadership that complements but differs from pastoral ministry. I know that sounds counterintuitive to what I said over here about pastoral care. So pastoral care and chaplaincy are the same. Pastoral ministry is more like women pastors, you know, whether they're lead pastor or associate pastor or whatever. So that's the distinction there. Chapter 5, female chaplains today, case studies. I think I already read that. Chapter 6, conclusion, final argument of the biblical and theological grounding of female chaplains in the church today, offering encouragement for future generations of female chaplains, reaffirming their theological legitimacy and their vital role in the mission of the church. And then I wrote, this is before I revised everything, so I wrote that I needed to do a chapter on history of female leaders in the modern church. And then I was playing around with ideas of who I would include for that, ones that I'm very much interested in, because I'm writing a dissertation. I want it to be about women that I am most interested in that apply obviously to this topic. And then number 6 is the bibliography, and then number 7 was the timeline. So, and this is my bibliography that I had come up with so far. So a lot of those books that I shared here, they're in here, and then maybe some that I didn't purchase. So when I met with my advisor the first time, she said, okay, so I want you to figure out exactly what women, you know, we talked about women in church and history and the Bible and, you know, my whole idea. And then she said, when we meet in April, I want you to have the women that you want to write about chosen specifically and in your chapter outline. So this is the proposal. So this is not going to be part of the dissertation except for really the chapter outline and maybe some of the intro. So that's proposal is approved, and now I'm starting to write the dissertation. So the title stayed the same, which I'm very happy with. And oh gosh, I think this is the old one. I don't know. So the new one, is it over here? I've got so many copies of this. I don't know what's what anymore here. Okay, this is the older copy. Let me see. This is still an older copy, I think. Oh, the new copy was in that Junia book, I think. Oh, here you go. Okay. So we've got, I think the intro might have changed, but I'm not going to read this too. So it's anyway. So, let's see. So my chapters changed. So I have intro, of course, which is an overview of the purpose and significance of methodology. Chapter 2, Biblical Foundations of Women in Leadership, exploration of female biblical leaders and their roles and contributions. And then I said specifically Deborah, who was a judge, and she also led armies. What do they call that? Anyway. And then Huldah, which we don't know a whole, you know, people don't really talk about much, and Abigail. Those are the 3 that I picked for Old Testament. So Old Testament are going to be in chapter 2, and then chapter 3 is Jesus and the Liberation of Women in Ministry. The 3 that I picked there are Mary Magdalene, because she was one of the ones that saw the empty tomb. Phoebe, was it Phoebe? Yes, Phoebe. And then Junia, which I talked about, that's part of that book. So Jesus, the Liberation of women in ministry. And then chapter 4, chaplaincy as a unique vocation. So that's why I need those books on chaplaincy and pastoral care. And then conclusion. So they really don't want you to have a bunch of titles and have a lot of fluff in there. It just needs to be very much about exactly what you're going to talk about, and that's it. So then I came up with a new timeline. But okay, so here it actually starts. So this is my new introduction, and then I revised all of this to give her the chapters in a more succinct, version, just very much put together. So instead of just having an outline, I went into the outline here. So chaplaincy is a unique vocation. So I have a little intro there, and then I say define chaplaincy, the history of chaplaincy, biblical comparisons, and then chapter 2, biblical foundations of women in leadership. So then it goes into my 3 Old Testament women. So we want to talk about their role in leadership, scholarly comparison, relevance to chaplaincy. So in each of those women, I want to do a comparison based on what these women that I'm finding in my research, how their views differ from mine, reference them in there. And then I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the scholarly comparison, yes. And then the relevance to chaplaincy. So each woman I'm going to do that on. And then we have Huldah, what her role in leadership. So anyway, Huldah, Abigail. So I kind of went into the whole thing there. And then we have Mary, Magdalene, Phoebe, and Junia, which some people call her Junia. So these were the ones that were most closely resemble what my dissertation is about. Okay, then scholarly comparison and theological grounding. So this is where I'm going to incorporate a lot of these books that I showed. So Ben Witherington, I found out where they would incorporate into here. So a lot of these books, I have them listed out. And then she had told me about a female scholar that teaches at, I think it's Bright Theological Seminary. Her name is Huldah Gaffney, and she's written books. And I bought her big book. I don't know where I put it, but I need to use that as a reference because she is a contemporary scholar. So I need to have, some older scholars, from history, and then some contemporary ones, kind of a mix, so that it will be a very well-rounded, paper. So I listed those out, and then I have chapter 5, modern exemplars of faith, women in ministry from the Great Awakenings to the present. So that is going to be a very fun chapter for me to write about, because a lot of these women that I've looked up to over the years. So Semple McPherson, who is the founder of the Foursquare Church, there's a whole story there. If you haven't heard that one, that would be amazing to look up. Kathryn Kuhlman, amazing minister in the early 20th century. And then Phoebe Palmer, which I didn't know much about, and she's part of my tradition. She's a holiness preacher and theologian, and big on revival. I didn't know a lot about her, so I'm incorporating her too. So I came up with 3 women from the Great Awakening era, sort of, and then to the present. So the present ones that I chose are Joyce Meyer. How can you not choose her? She's a legend. Beth Moore, there's a whole story there. And then my favorite, Priscilla Shirer. So those are continuing the work of spiritual leadership, discipleship, and teaching. So I'm going to have fun writing about this chapter. It says, these women carry forward the legacy of biblical matriarchs and early church leaders. Their works align with chaplaincy through preaching, healing, shepherding, and bold obedience. So my advisor did know about Phoebe Palmer, and she's actually taught about her. So I'm just thinking, how come I don't know about this woman? She's amazing. So I'm sure I'll share about her when I start writing. So the conclusion will offer a comprehensive argument for the theological and biblical grounding of female chaplains in the church today. It will affirm the legitimacy of women in chaplaincy roles, addressing potential objections and affirming their vital contributions to the mission of the church. It will also discuss how to foster greater acceptance and recognition of female chaplains within Christian communities, ensuring that future generations of women can step into these important vocational roles. And then my bibliography. So I met with her 2 weeks ago and gave her this revised, oh wait, I have 2 bibliographies here. Oh, that was just a 1 page. That was just the 2nd page. Okay, there's the other one. And she really liked all the revisions that I did. She said, you did everything I asked you to do. So I picked the women, I incorporated them into my table of contents. And then I had to come up with a new timeline because the first timeline I had was very much too ambitious. So my timeline is, I need to have chapter 1 completed by, I had it in January, that didn't happen. I barely got this revision done by April. So my new timeline, I don't know what all of it is because I don't have it here, but by June, I need to have chapter 1 written. And I think in my new table of contents, chapter 1 is the one on chaplaincy. So that's what I start writing about, is the chapter on chaplaincy. And so she said 15 to 20 pages, 20 pages max. So I'm going to go for 50, at least 15, maybe 16, 17 pages. And by the end of June, then we meet again. And that is what she's going to grade me on for this class between her and I. So there's not really class time. We just meet through Zoom. I actually have not met her in person, and we've only met twice so far, and then that'll be the 3rd time. But she's going by what I told her I was going to do and whether I'm doing what she asked me to do or not. So I'm trying to do all the things she asked me to do, and now I have to have that final chapter or first chapter written by the end of June. And then I think that class will technically be over maybe in July. I'm not really sure. I'm a little confused how that works. But then our other class is the dissertation itself. So that class stays open until next spring, where we finish the dissertation. So my timeline says that I'll have it done by next, I don't know, March or something. And then that way I can present it to her, have the second reader read it also, do any revisions before I present it and defend it. So then that'll give me time to revise it and defend it before graduation next May. So that's where I'm at with dissertation. And I know I talked really fast. I hope I didn't get anybody confused, but I didn't have a whole lot of time to do this, and I'm trying to run through it real fast, but that's the gist of it. And I'll keep you updated on when I start writing chapter 1 and how that goes. Thanks, guys. See you in the next video.